Welcome to week 10 of our Cycle of Excellence. Last week we explored the benefits of networking and why every person needs a support network. Today we'll examine different network shapes and their impact on our freedom and growth. Some networks can limit us or create unhealthy dependencies, while others foster mutual support and personal development. Our goal is to help you become more discerning about which networks you join and how you build your own network. As we navigate our complex world, we encounter different types of networks, each with their own structures and purposes. Let's explore 3 distinct network shapes that influence our lives in different ways. The first one is the broom-shaped network. Imagine a broom. This represents networks designed for mass influence and mass control. The handle serves as a centralized command center, while the bristles act as many identical agents who don't connect with each other. In this structure, each bristle treats people as cases rather than individuals. We see examples of broom-shaped networks in legal systems, which provide predictable rule of law but can be impersonal. We also see them in mass education with standardized approaches and in broadcast media delivering uniform information to large audiences. What's particularly concerning about broom-shaped networks is how they limit the personal growth and development of their agents. The people who serve as the bristles find themselves confined to predetermined processes with little room for creativity or personal initiative. Their role often requires them to set aside empathy and treat each person they encounter as just another case to be processed according to standard procedures. Over time, this can stifle their own development and diminish their capacity for meaningful human connection. These networks efficiently manage large groups but often limit creativity and meaningful personal connections. They are built for consistency, not customization, and this comes at a significant human cost for both those being processed and by the system and for those working within it. The hierarchical power network. Next, think about pyramid-structured networks where information and access are tightly controlled. In these hierarchies, information gets processed and compressed as it moves up and down the organization. The system prioritizes compliance of innovation, and only those at the top get to see the complete picture. What's remarkable about hierarchical networks is their power as information processing systems. Historically, they've been unmatched in their ability to collect, organize, and utilize vast amounts of information. This capability was a key factor in allowing European powers to dominate much of the world for several centuries. A single person could never access and process the same amount of information as these hierarchical networks did, giving organizations with this structure an enormous advantage. Hierarchical networks excel at coordinating complex activities across large organizations. They can effectively mobilize resources and direct focused action. This explains why they've dominated organizational structures for centuries. However, this power comes at a cost. Individual initiative often gets sacrificed for the sake of system-wide coordination. Interestingly, these hierarchical forms of organizations are becoming increasingly obsolete in our modern world. Computers, the internet, and especially artificial intelligence now allow individuals to process even larger amounts of information and use it effectively. The information processing advantage that hierarchies once held exclusively is rapidly eroding. Furthermore, in today's interconnected world, it has become much harder to control access to information. Computer systems can be hacked, and once information leaks, it's nearly impossible to prevent it from propagating across global networks. The rigid information control that hierarchies depend on is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain in a world where information wants to be free. And the number 3 is the spiderweb network. Finally, consider spiderweb networks, where each person connects to multiple others through various pathways. Information flows freely throughout the system, and the multiple connections create resilience. If one connection breaks, many others remain intact. This inherent redundancy means the network continues to function even when individual links fail, making it remarkably robust compared to more centralized structures. The Internet exemplifies this structure, which has enabled unprecedented creativity and innovation. When people can connect directly without going through central authorities, new ideas emerge and spread rapidly. However, spiderwebs present their own significant challenges. One of the most troubling is the difficulty in tracing information back to its source. In a spiderweb network, it's often unclear where a piece of information originated and how it has been modified as it traveled throughout the network. This makes validating extremely difficult. This vulnerability creates dangerous openings for manipulation. Strategic actors can plant similar information simultaneously in different parts of the web, with each artificially planted source appearing to independently validate the others. When we encounter what seems like the same information from multiple sources, we naturally tend to give it more credibility. Yet in a spiderweb, these seemingly independent confirmations might all trace back to a single coordinated campaign. The result can be a rapid spread of profoundly selective or plainly wrong information that appears well validated. Without clear sourcing and context, even careful consumers of information can be misled by these manufactured consensus effects. The very feature that gives spiderwebs their strength, distributed redundant connections, can also make them powerful vehicles for sophisticated misinformation campaigns. Social media are specialized spiderwebs. Social media platforms represent special forms of spiderweb networks designed specifically to address some of these downsides. They have implemented various moderation systems and algorithms intended to limit noise and misinformation, ostensibly to improve user experience and information quality. However, this introduces another significant risk. The power to moderate can be, and often is, abused. When a small group of people or organizations gain control over what information can spread through these fast networks, they acquire enormous influence over public discourse. What begins as efforts to combat misinformation can evolve into mechanisms for suppressing legitimate perspectives that challenge dominant narratives. The line between helpful curation and problematic censorship is thin and constantly shifting, creating new challenges for information freedom that didn't exist in more decentralized networks. After examining these structures, a critical question emerges. How can we create networks with the resilience and creativity of a spiderweb while avoiding both unfiltered information chaos and centralized control? The ideal personal network combines several essential qualities. It allows valuable information to flow freely while protecting members from manipulation. It creates space for creativity and excellence to flourish. It provides enough security that members feel comfortable taking appropriate risks. And perhaps most importantly, it preserves individual freedom rather than demanding conformity. Rather than managing our networks through moderation systems that inevitably create different classes of information and risk centralized control, we can take a more human-centered approach. We can build and protect an organizational culture based on shared values like honesty, mutual respect, curiosity, and maintaining an open mind. One of the most powerful ways to achieve this is through careful selection of the people we allow into our lives and with whom we build close relationships. By surrounding ourselves with individuals who embody these values, we create an environment where quality information naturally rises to the top through thoughtful discussion and evaluation, rather than through algorithmic filtering or centralized decision-making. This approach honors human judgment and relationship building as the foundation of healthy information exchange. It recognizes that the character and value of the people in our network matter far more than any technical filtering system we might implement. To build such a network, consider this approach. Reduce external visibility while maintaining internal transparency. Within your network, foster a culture where clarity and mutual respect are valued above all. Establish deep trust among your core members, creating a foundation that can weather challenges. The quality of your network ultimately depends on the quality of the people within it. By carefully selecting who you allow into your inner circle, choosing those who demonstrate integrity, intellectual humility, and genuine respect for others, you create natural safeguards against misinformation and manipulation. This balanced approach delivers all the benefits of connection without compromising your freedom or authentic self-expression. It creates a space where you can be both protected and empowered. How do you put this value-based approach into action? Start by selecting your inner circle wisely, choosing members based on trust and shared values rather than convenience or status. Set clear boundaries about what information flows between your network and outside entities. Not everything needs to be broadcast to the world. Make quality communication your priority, valuing truth and clarity in all exchanges. Connect to multiple networks to gain a broader perspective rather than relying on a single information source. And continually develop your discernment. Sharpen your ability to evaluate information quality regardless of its source or how it's presented. By focusing on the quality of your relationships rather than the quantity of your connections, you create a network that enriches rather than overwhelms. Which approach doesn't require complex technologies or rigid hierarchies, just thoughtful attention to who you connect with and how you communicate. As we have seen throughout this exploration, networks remain essential for our growth and success, but their structure profoundly influences how they affect us. The broom shapes can process people efficiently, but at a cost to both the processed and the processors. Hierarchical structures coordinate complex activities, but can stifle creativity and are increasingly challenged by technological change. Spiderwebs offer unprecedented connection, but struggle with information quality and validation. Understanding these different network shapes empowers you to see how your current network might be influencing your thinking, your opportunities, and your freedom. With this awareness, you can intentionally build connections that enhance your autonomy rather than restrict it. By focusing on values and relationships rather than control mechanisms, you create a network environment that naturally promotes quality information and meaningful growth. The key is recognizing which networks truly serve your development and which may be limiting your potential. Next week, we will explore in greater detail how to identify the right people for your personal network, those who inspire you and help pull you forward rather than holding you back. We'll take a closer look at the structure of such a personal network, specifically examining how to balance broad access to information and resources with a strong inner kernel of trusted relationships. You'll learn how to create a network that provides both security and opportunity, with different layers serving different purposes in your life. Until then, take some time to reflect your current networks. For each network in your life, consider what valuable support, resources, or information does this network provide. In what ways might this same network be limiting your perspective or potential? Remember, networks typically serve us in some ways while limiting us in others. The goal isn't necessarily to eliminate networks, but to engage with them consciously, strengthening the aspects that serve your growth while minimizing those that constrain it. See you next week on our Cycle of Excellence.